also need Republicans to adopt the same approach to tax reform that Speaker Boehner championed just 2 months ago. Under our concept of tax reform, nobody's rates would go up, but we'd be able to reduce the deficit by making some tough, smart spending cuts and getting rid of wasteful tax loopholes that benefit the well-off and the well-connected.
The president says we have to have another tax increase in order to avoid the sequester. Well, Mr. President, you got your tax increase. It's time to cut spending here in Washington.
So is the country going to be less safe after sequester, in your opinion, as somebody who's all over this issue for the last 4 years?
Look, I don't think we can maintain the same level of security at all places around the country with sequester as without sequester. We're going to do and are doing everything we can within the limits sequester gives us. But as I was mentioning earlier, if you have 5,000 fewer Border Patrol hours or agents, you have 5,000 fewer Border Patrol agents. That has a real impact. I'm not here to scare people. I'm here to inform and also to let people begin to plan, because they're going to see these impacts in their daily lives, and they're going to have to adjust and make their arrangements accordingly.
I guess, will the pressure change, Charles? The pressure has been these horrific things could potentially happen. Republicans are making them happen. At least that's the Democrats have been out talking that way. Could the Republicans turn the pressure, as the Speaker tried to do today, about dealing with debt and deficit? And is that attractive politically to enough people out in America?
Cutting is always attractive in the abstract. In the detail, it rarely is, because there are constituencies who get affected if you have cuts. But the cynicism of the campaign of this administration is astonishing. The assumption is that somehow, at every stage of the expansion of the liberal federal government, we have reached a platonic ideal, and that if you cut $1 off that, it's as if God had devised exactly the size of government America needs, and any cut leads to Armageddon. What we're talking about here is 2 cents on the dollar. Every dollar the government spends today, 35 cents is borrowed from the Chinese and others. What's going on here is ending up in a position where we borrow not 35, but 33 cents. And that is going to bring Armageddon. An example of the cynicism of this campaign is one lobbyist for liberal causes leading 3,000 organizations in opposing the cuts, who told the Washington Post the following: the worst case scenario is the sequester hits and nothing really bad happens. Think of the cynicism of that. The worst case scenario is that the government makes a minuscule cut in spending on the way to the beginning of a journey of recovery into fiscal health, and that it doesn't hurt us. We actually come out of it alive. And that, to them, is the worst case. It means, think of how they are weighing the national interest, which needs a cut in spending, and these parochial special interests.
People will notice a government shutdown. They may not immediately notice the impacts of the sequester. I mean, it remains to be seen. And again, this is what's so fascinating about this debate, is the reason why I think both sides are so amped up, is because nobody knows what's going to happen.
A lot of these furloughs can't go in place until April or the end of April.
Exactly. And I think when we get to the CR deadline at the end of March, the Republican position, I think, will be one of strength. Its position will be stay with the sequesters, pass the resolution, leave the government open, and it will be Democrats who will be arguing against it, threatening a shutdown. I think that would put Republicans in a much stronger position than they were. Fiscal cliff even stronger than they are now.
The cynics, the lobbyists, the special interests who've turned our government into a game only they can afford to play. They write the checks and you get stuck with the bill. They get the access while you get to write a letter. They think they own this government, but we're here today to take it back.
You ask legislators why they never pursue campaign finance in addition to the obvious self-interest. It's not a winner with the public. People don't really think about it. It's not something that they can kind of easily get their heads around. And in addition to that, I also think there's just a more practical question of, do the American people believe that the president should fight with one hand tied behind his back? Because, these are the rules, like it or not, that exist.
To be fair, Jay Carney also said that the president and Democrats on Capitol Hill backed Disclose Acts, banning loopholes, bringing more transparency to the political system, but they were blocked by Republicans.
Yes, it's always Republicans who prevent Obama from acting ethically. Remarkable how that happens. Look, this is a man who's descended out of Mount Olympus. That's where he started out. In the clip you showed in 2007, he was a man who was going to redeem our politics, eliminate the money, chase the money changers out of the temple. And now he's breaking new ground in lobbying, selling access, and peddling influence. Look, here he is demonizing the rich every other day for not paying their fair share, for essentially crushing the hopes of the middle class and the working class. And now all of a sudden there's a subset of the rich he really likes, those who will give him $500,000, and in return he will let them sit on an advisory committee and will get access to him quarterly, 4 times a year. Advisory committees are generally where you pick people with wisdom and experience who give you advice from the outside. His idea of a committee of that sort is rich people who will blindly support whatever policy he supports. That is the essence of this organization. Anything he wants to do, he'll support. Who have a lot of money and will part with it. And that's his idea of advice. I think it's remarkable. He stoops to conquer, and I think it's rather unpretty, regardless of whether it's a winning issue with the public or not.
This has been a Sunfish production.